Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. Before we start, can you please get someone to pray for us? Monica Ndebele, can you please pray for us? Okay, maybe she's not here right now. Ooh, it's cool. Please, can you unmute and pray for us? Okay.
Why people are off then? Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, yes. Hi, Monica. Please, can you pray for us before we begin?
Oh, okay. Okay, let's pray. Dear God, thank you for everything that you have done for us. Lord, may please be with us about to start us meeting. May you please open our hearts and minds and everything. May we open our minds so that we learn whatever is given to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you so much, Monica. So my name is Maxine, and I'm going to be presenting your Mobile Technology Award, or rather honor for you guys today. So I'll start sharing my screen and then we'll start, and then other people can join us along the way. Ne? All right, let me share the screen. Okay. All right, so like I said, my name is Maxine. I'm going to be sharing with you guys today the Mobile Technology Award. Okay, this presentation is by me, Maxine Jovu, and it was compiled by our leader, Kamhero Limisi. Okay, right, so let us start. What is a mobile device? Can anyone please unmute and tell me what they think a mobile device is? School, what do you think a mobile device is? Okay, school's not saying anything. Monica and Debele, can you please tell us what you think a mobile device is?
Mobile.
I think a mobile device is any electrical device that you can move around with.
Okay, school, you had unmuted. Please unmute again and tell me what you think a mobile device is.
A mobile device is something that can hold somebody or send an SMS.
Okay, right, so let's go to the next slide. It says here, a mobile device is a handheld small computer like a tablet, a smartphone, a smartwatch, or a calculator. So that's what a mobile device is, né? So it's basically a handheld small computer. So it's a portable computer essentially. Okay, next slide. The types of mobile devices that we have. So the type of mobile devices that we have include smartphones, tablets, like we had said, ebooks, smartwatches, personal navigation devices like your GPS, and digital still cameras or video cameras, as well as handheld game consoles. Yeah? So now we move on to safety precautions. What safety precautions do you think we need to take when we are using our devices? Can anyone unmute and tell me any safety precautions they think we need to take? Ayanda, can you please unmute and tell us what safety precautions you think we'd need to take when we're using these mobile devices? Okay, cool. Can you unmute and tell us any safety precautions you think we'd need to take? Okay, nobody's unmuting. Monica, can you please assist us?
Okay, can you please repeat the question?
I guess we were talking about the types of the mobile devices that we have, and then now we are saying, what safety precautions do you think we need to take when we are using these mobile devices?
I think number one, you should be careful on what you download, because some of the things they have e-virus. And then number two, like let's say when you're walking on the road, you should be careful on how you carry that one, because some people may rob you and so on and so on.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, safety precautions. So first one, you have to be careful against using mobile devices when they are plugged in. Okay, so that's presents some risk of danger for us. So we must be careful against doing that. The second one, we must not leave our mobile devices in public spaces unattended, because like something related to what Monica had said, people can then take those devices. Okay. When we are logging into a free public Wi-Fi, we must make sure it is legit. Like Monica has said as well, viruses and things like that. So when you log on to public Wi-Fi's, you are able then to essentially, if it's not legit, you may end up downloading viruses through that Wi-Fi. So it's something we need to be careful about. Okay, we must always password protect our lock screens. Otherwise, that means that anyone can essentially take our devices and then enter them if they're not protected. Okay, so password protect your lock screen. Next one, when not to use our devices, we must be aware of when we're not supposed to use our devices. Like Monica said, in public, if we're walking in public places, we can't always have our devices out if it's not safe for us to be doing that. Another important one is posture. So sometimes when we're using our devices, we are hunched over, our shoulders are bent, our backs are bent, we're not sitting in a correct position, and that affects our posture and our spine, our back. So we must be careful to always maintain the correct posture when we're using our mobile devices. Okay. Another one, we need to be careful who we socialize with on networking apps. As we know, obviously people are able to lie about who they are on these apps because we can't see them. We're not going to be able to tell. So we need to be very careful about who we are socializing with, and that we are not putting our safety in danger with who we are socializing with on these networking apps. Another one, we need to be careful about which apps we are installing on our phones. Some apps can expose us to things that as children of God, we're not supposed to be exposed to. And also just expose us to things that are not healthy for our mental well-being and social well-being as well. So we need to be careful about which apps we are installing. Most apps will have an age, not necessarily limit, but they'll have an age at which you're not allowed to use the app. So we need to be aware of those things and guard ourselves accordingly. Okay. Next, we're going on to advantages and disadvantages of mobile devices. Can anyone please unmute and tell me any two advantages they think of or about rather having or using mobile devices? Anyone?
You can speak to somebody who's far away from you, like from, something like that.
Okay, you're able to communicate with people who are far away without physically being with them. Good. Anyone else tell me an advantage or disadvantage of mobile devices?
It makes your life easier.
Okay, it makes your life easier in what way?
Like instead of you can work on your phone and do things on your phone, like it makes things easier.
Okay, so you're able to work digitally on your phone, and that makes it easier than obviously maybe writing things out or physically submitting stuff when you can do that on your mobile device. Anybody else?
I think they are portable, so you can carry them anywhere you go. So you can be able to use them wherever you are.
Okay, that's very true. You can use them anywhere you are because you're able to carry them with you. So you don't have to necessarily be in one place to be able to use the mobile device. Okay, good. So here what I have are advantages and disadvantages. Okay, advantages of a smartphone. Okay, it's small, communicating is easier, it has internet access, and then you're able to use applications easier, like you guys have said, in terms of, you know, it's small, it's portable. Disadvantages, it hinders person-to-person communication, it can cause serious accidents, and it can pose a risk to your privacy and security. So in terms of person-to-person communication, like we said, sometimes you don't really need to be physically with the person to communicate with them, which can be a disadvantage because it is good to be able to communicate with people person to person. It can cause serious accidents. So a lot of people have a bad habit. Obviously, we know that it's illegal. We're not supposed to be doing it, of being on their smartphones while they are driving. Né? It distracts you, and then the next thing is maybe a car accident. So that's also a disadvantage. Then privacy and security. Obviously, there are people online, and also if you're not guarding your smartphone properly, who are able to then hack into or access your information. So that is a disadvantage of the mobile phone. Okay, an advantage and a disadvantage of a tablet. Okay, advantage of the tablets, we have that it's lightweight, it's portable, it's got a nice, you know, big viewing screen, and it can also be very educational. Né? Whereas the disadvantages is that it has limited ports, you can't use discs, and it's limited only to apps. Né? So you can't use like your hardware, things like that, which you could insert into maybe a computer or a different device, because it doesn't have the options for that. Né? Next, your ebook. An advantage of your ebook is that the books are in your pocket, so you can carry them anywhere you go, né? And it's mobile, so you don't need a physical copy of the book. You can back up books, so as opposed to being able to lose a physical book, you can back it up to a drive, and then it's always there for your access. It's easily accessible for you. It saves space. You can adjust the viewing font, whereas a literal book, the font is the font that you get. You can't really do much about it. You can put bookmarks or notes and then edit them later. So you can take them, you can put them in and you can take them out, and then you can also add notes for yourself where you've bookmarked these things, and it's also searchable. So if you maybe remember part of the name of the book, you are able to put that part in, then you search it, and then the book can pop up. Whereas with the physical book, if you forget a part of the book or the book title, then it's harder for you to be able to access or find that book. Ne? A disadvantage of ebooks, it doesn't feel like paper. So some people prefer, you know, to physically use books. They like the way that the books feel. They like the way that the books smell even. You're not able to send a book to a friend, whereas with a physical book, you can borrow that book to your friend. Then it means that the libraries are getting smaller. Essentially, they're not making, if we're using more ebooks, they're not going to be making as many books, and then the libraries are going to get smaller, and that might be difficult for those people who are not able to access or who do not have access to ebooks. Né? All right, more advantages and disadvantages. Smartwatches, né? It's nice because it's hands-free. You can store your personal information there. You can record your health, and you can access the internet through smartwatches. Né? Whereas the disadvantages are it decreases the data accuracy of what you are trying to record, and also it's limited in charging. So if you have a smartwatch, you know that you need to charge it before you're able to use it, because the battery will die. So it's limited in charging. So if your battery dies, then you have to wait until you can charge it again to be able to use it. Okay. With your GPS, the advantages are the size. Né? So most GPSs are portable. You can carry them with you wherever you're going. Battery life, it's got a good battery life, so it lasts a while. Né? Text messaging, you're able to do that through your personal navigation device. Né? Location, you're able to see where you are or locate where you want to be. Né? With your GPS. Tracking, you're also able to track where you're going, track where you've been, and weather as well. It will let you know most of the time, okay, this is the weather where you're wanting to go. This is what the weather is going to look like. I mean, it helps you to be able to prepare better. Né? The disadvantages of your GPS is that you don't really get entertainment on there. You don't tend to be able to get videos or pictures of the things that you're wanting to see. Excuse me. With your digital still cameras or your video cameras, your advantages of that, again, your size, né? It's portable, you're able to take it with you where you're going. Storage has got good storage capacity, so you're able to essentially store or save a lot of things in there that you're wanting to. You can access Wi-Fi through these things. They also allow for you to edit and to print the things that you are capturing on these devices. Né? Where your disadvantages are, it does not provide a form of communication. Okay, you can't use it to communicate with others. You can only use it for capturing things, essentially capturing pictures, capturing videos, and things like that. Okay. As handheld game consoles, an advantage of a handheld game console, you're able to have photos on there, you're able to provide entertainment, you're also able to have videos, able to access the internet, and then also the size. It's portable, it's nice and small, you can take it with you where you're going, okay? Whereas your disadvantages are that it's not a cell phone. So a lot of the qualities of a cell phone, or a lot of things you're getting from a cell phone, you're not going to be able to get from a handheld game console. Okay. Next, we move on to mobile technology in society and the industry. Okay. So in terms of mobile technology and how it can be used to benefit the society and industry in your businesses. So what you can do with that is that your businesses can then talk to their employees and keep a track of where they are for safety. Né? So it's nice to be able to track where people are to ensure that they are being safe. Né? For example, people who come and deliver your pizza or your Uber Eats or your McDelivery, he communicates back to the pizza parlor or wherever you got your food for new orders that have to be delivered. Né? So when you order on the app, the people that you order from will communicate with the person who's delivering for you what you need them to deliver for you. Né? Then he'll use his device to see the map. So obviously they don't know where we stay. So we put our address in, and then they'll use the device to navigate to where we are staying and get there safely and get to the correct place as well. Né? Then he can use the internet to take in debit transactions. So when we're paying, you pay through your app, and then you can see that through the internet. Né? Then he also uses his device to see what is the weather and road conditions to get to where we are. Is it safe? Does he need to use maybe a different route? Is there traffic? Maybe there's an accident, maybe it's raining, the roads are slippery. These are things that he's going to need to know in order to be able to find the best route to get to where we are. Né? So also if you're traveling to a town, you can use your mobile device to then contact the business and find out more information. So if there's any questions that you have that only the business can answer, then you're able to use your mobile device. You call them, you communicate with them, then they can answer your questions. Né? And then some businesses will also use apps for more information on their products. So if you go to the app, you'll find more information that they put there on their products. So as opposed to calling them, you don't have to call them anymore. You go on the app, and then you see the information that they provide there, and then maybe that will answer some of the questions that you have. Okay, so we move on from businesses and we go on to personal recreation. So this one is more about apps. If you live in a town, you may be able to find things like hiking trails or recreational areas in your area, essentially. So you can use maps and find recreation activities, like if you want to go swimming, or you and your friends want to go and find a soccer field to play a match, you can be able to find that on apps. And then maps will also allow you to be able to find gyms and parks in your area. Also, maybe if you want to go see a movie, it'll show you cinemas. If you're wanting to go to the mall, it will show you where these things are in your area and how far you're having to travel to get to those places. Okay, next, it can also help us in knowing about our safety and protection. This one is much like healthcare. Né? Devices will allow you to maybe call an emergency number like 10-177 in an emergency. Maybe there's been someone who needs an ambulance, they've had an accident, or there's something that's happened within the home, and then they need to go to the hospital. So your mobile device will then allow you to quickly be able to call these people, and then they can come. Né? And it also gives you weather reports, like if there's been an earthquake, if there's going to be a hailstorm, if there's been a hailstorm, if there's flooding, like has been happening in KZN. these devices can enable us to be able to access information about that and learn more about these things. Okay. In terms of education, how can these devices help? So education and homework will always tie in. Ne? So there are apps on devices that will allow us to learn about other languages or maybe how to do multiplication. Ne? So there's some are games and some can test your knowledge. And then you can even find books on this. So it helps you to keep on learning. So for example, you know, your ebooks, you can download a book there. Maybe it's for English literature, you can then read that book, as opposed to if you can't maybe get the physical book, you can get that book on ebooks and then you can continue your education using that mobile device. Okay, so increasingly we're finding that schools are using apps to let students and parents know when assignments are due or when schools are closed or when they are delayed due to inclement weather. And then some school apps will also facilitate group assignments. So we know, especially during COVID, a lot of the schools are going digital there. So we have an app. So now we are doing classes online on Zoom meetings, or maybe it's Microsoft Teams, or maybe the school has a specific app that they're using to communicate with you to tell you, okay, by tomorrow you have to have this assignment done, because obviously we're not going to school physically. And yet, so schools were using that a lot. Is there anyone here whose school was using a specific app? Maybe you'd like to tell us what the school was communicating with you through the app. Anybody?
My school was using Class Dojo.
Okay, Class Dojo, what were you doing there? Were they putting homework or were they giving announcements? What were you using the app for?
It's like for everything, like the homework, the announcements, to like for both, I guess.
Okay, so yeah, people were, like Sissy was saying, that they were using it for, you know, apps for homework, for announcements. Then we have a message here saying we use Teams for class meetings. Né? Sometimes we need to we have a class assignment, we have group work. They use Teams, they discuss on there, then we find a way forward. People were delegating work to say, okay, Mina, I'm going to do this part of the assignment, or you can do this part of the assignment. And that's how we were getting our work and education done. Né? And some schools are stuck to that. So they're still using apps to communicate, maybe announcements. So we've physically gone back to school, but they're still communicating announcements to say, okay, yes, this is what maybe children need to have their reports signed by this day, and they're communicating directly with the parents as well. Okay. Right, healthcare, this is a great one. So has anyone ever had to call 10177 for emergency and they did not have a phone nearby? Anybody? No? So it's not unusual because most people do have cell phones these days. So yeah, most people will be able to directly call from their cell phones or mobile device. Okay, so essentially what mobile technology is doing is it's allowing people to call for help instantly instead of trying to find public telephones nearby. So I don't know if any one of you has used public telephones. You know, a couple of years back, people were using those quite a bit because they didn't have cell phones, but now more people have cell phones, so not many people as before are using public telephones. Né? So what you can also do in terms of healthcare is that it's helping, mobile technology is helping us to find nutritional tips, exercise programs with apps using the device. So some people, you know, have apps that maybe they're wanting to gym or they're wanting to work out. So you can download the app for that. It'll tell you that, okay, today it's Monday, you're going to do 10 press ups, you're going to do, you know, maybe 20 push-ups, you're going to do all these things. So this is helping us to not necessarily have to go to the gym or a personal trainer, but there are apps that you're able to find these things on. Right. There is even first aid in the apps. Né? So depending on the healthcare, some people can also set timers with the devices if they are needing to take certain medication at a certain time. And also we can use our mobile technology or devices rather to act as alarm clocks. So some people will forget, it's okay, at this time I need to take my medication. Maybe, you know, I have epilepsy and I need to take my medication, but I forget. So what we're able to then do is set an alarm on my phone, and I'll even put a note to say, okay, take your medication. Né? So that is what people are able to do. Guys, please mute yourselves if you're not speaking. Okay. All right, and then we go on to say many mobile devices can monitor your heart rate, the calories that you've burned, the distances that you've traveled, and the amount of time that you spent exercising there. And you can set goals on any of these metrics and track how well you are doing. So I know a lot of phones, for example, if you have Samsung, there's Samsung Health, and then it will tell you, so you can set, okay, I want to do 10,000 steps a day, and it will track your steps. Né? At the end of the day, it'll tell you that, okay, maybe you achieved 67% of your goal, or you achieved 105 if you did more steps than you intended to do. Né? So moving on to transportation, how is mobile technology being used to benefit society and the industry in terms of transportation? Right, has anyone ever been going somewhere, then they got lost, and then they didn't have an actual map, like a physical map? You don't have a physical map, you're going somewhere and you've gotten lost. Anybody? No one, so you guys just are really good with direction. Everybody just knows where they're going all the time. That's good. Okay, so there are now devices like our cell phones typically will have maps on them. And then what those maps also do is they estimate how long it will take to get to where we're going. The shortest length. Né? It will also show you if there's any traffic on the routes that you're wanting to go or on a certain route. And then also it will factor in things like the weather to tell us, okay, how long will it take to get from point A to point B to point C, okay? And then some applications of the devices can even map other countries. And then for most countries, you have these maps. Né? So they'll even show you hiking maps if you want to go on a hike. They'll show you hiking trails. And then they'll also show you maps for indoor malls. So if you're inside the mall even and you get lost, you're able to use your maps and then navigate to where you're wanting to go, right? But maps are not the only thing for transportation. You're also able to see, you know, flights and bus arrivals and departures. So it'll show you airports, it'll show you bus stations, okay? And then you can also call a cab if you're needing to, or you can also call your friend, maybe if you're not able to call a cab, or maybe you don't necessarily have the money for a cab, you're able to call your friend if you need a ride and then ask them, okay, you know, friend, I need to go here. Are you able to give me a ride? So this is how mobile technology is helping and benefiting us in terms of transportation. Okay, now we're gonna go on to the type of cell sites that we have. Okay, so these are the type of cell sites that we have. We have camouflage, we have an off-grid system, we have a temporary setup. So camouflage cell sites are usually found in cities or in areas where they would stand out too much or to many people and be noticeable. Okay, they typically or can look like flagpoles. They can look like street lights. Sometimes they look like trees or rooftop structures, and they can have architectural designs. So trees, for example, so they make the leaves out of a plastic material that hide the antennas and parts of the antenna. Then the bark or the trunk of the tree hides the tower. So essentially it's a cell site, but it looks like a tree. So you're not able to see all the nitty-gritties, you know, all the little details of the actual cell sites. Okay, for off-grid systems, off-grid system is a cell site that does not have a power grid connection. So it relies on fuel, and this fuel is usually diesel, né? Or it can also rely on wind or solar power. Fuel can then be trucked in or flown in by airport, né? By airplanes rather, sorry guys. And then most places that are off-grid can be hard to access, okay? Then with your temporary setup sites, these are antennas that are portable, okay? And then a generator will maybe provided to give power to the portable cell sites. And then the temporary cell sites are used usually when the permanent cell structure is not currently in operation and it needs to have maintenance done, or when there are planned outages. So it's just a temporary setup, and then afterwards when it's done, then they typically pack it up and then they go. Okay, so there are 3 types of temporary cell sites. Okay, The first one is a RDU. So RDU stands for Rapid Deployment Units. So these are mobile base stations that can be transported by trucks. Okay. Number 2, cells on wheels are placed on trailers and then they are towed by vehicles that can load up to 3,500 grams. Okay, which is basically 50 kgs. And then these cells on wheels can be in operation in one day and in very tight spaces. Okay, then the third one, cell on trucks are portable containers, né? And then with these, they have a self-mounting telescopic mast and they can be operational in 3 hours. So they set it up and then within 3 hours, it can be working. Okay, thank you so much guys for participating in the presentation. And then if there's any questions, you can raise your hand or you can put the questions down in the group chat and then we'll go from there. Does anyone have any questions, guys? Okay. If there's no questions, I think we can take maybe a 10-minute break and then we can come back for our second presentation. So please don't exit the group chat. Just stay, don't exit the meeting rather. Stay on the meeting and then we'll reconvene and start our second presentation in 10 minutes. And then if you have any questions that come up during that time, you're more than welcome to type them on the group or we'll take hands at the end of the presentation at large and then we can answer those questions. Okay, thank you guys. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll be back at 10:46. We're going to start with our second presentation. So I'm going to just hand over to Linda and then she will let us know everything we need to know.
Good morning, guys. Maxine, please allow me to share my presentation. I cannot. It says only hosts can share.
Maxine, just make a co-host just to save time.
Okay. Just try again. Tell me if you can share now.
Oh, yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Let me just do this. Hopefully everybody can see this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Good morning to everyone. Today's presentation will be on TENS. So our honor today will be on TENS, presented by Ulinda Duma from Mohlakeng. Our first requirement is classify 3 types of tents and how to put them up. List their advantages and disadvantages. So our first tent is a tunnel tent. Tunnel tents are great for wind areas. Pitch them so that winds run with the tunnel, meaning your door should be facing where the wind is blowing. Typically made up of 2 or more poles running the width of the structure, this shape makes for much better interior space and headroom. So our advantages of the tunnel tents is one of them is ideal for larger groups such as families due to their above average capacity, meaning you can get a group of a family inside that tent. Exceptionally versatile and are suited to most environments. Disadvantages: pitching takes time and may require more than 1 pair of hands. And it's difficult to reposition the tent when it collapses due to the change of weather. So in windy places, if this tent falls, it will be difficult for you to reposition it due to the windy weather. Our second tent is dome tents. Dome tents are the most popular style for family and group camping, distinguished by 2 or multiple collapsible poles passing over each other at the center of the room. They may also have side areas supported by hoops or perches supported by straight poles. Generally, dome tents offer spacious living areas and great headroom with large models, including separate rooms and porches to store gear and equipment. Dome tents are easy to pitch, stable, and can handle snow conditions much better than other tents. So most of us are quite familiar with dome tents because in most cases, see our Bonalama tent in our camp meetings, and most of us as pathfinders, if we are required to buy tents, this is most certainly our first tent. So it's the first tent we own as a pathfinder. So our advantages to dome tents can resist strong winds and heavy rain, easy to assemble and disassemble and pack, obviously. Our disadvantages are tall dome tents are unstable against high winds. Slope walls reduce the overall standing space. Our third type of tent, pop-up tents. The pop-up tent is a recent innovation. So lazy, it's what we call as a spujo, as a manje. They are equipped with built-in very flexible hoops so that when the tent is unpacked, it springs into shape immediately. And after use, the tent is packed down into a thick disc shape. So the tent liner, you don't have to peg it, and it does not have armor ropes so that you peg it. Once we keep her in its bag, in a disc bag, wakona, once you keep her, it just forms into a tent already. It takes like a second or two. This is made for extremely easy setup, but they have their drawbacks. Pop-ups are not designed for use by the serious camper, but rather either a children's toy or the very occasional fair weather camper. They are usually single-skinned, and their highly flexible structure makes them totally unsuitable for use in strong winds. So this tent, mute yourself. Do not have. Thank you very much. So they are usually single-skinned, and their highly flexible structure makes them totally unsuitable for use in strong winds. As I said before, this tent does not need for you to peg it. So if it's not pegged and there's nobody in the tent, if strong wind comes, it blows this tent away. So it's one of the disadvantages of the tent. And advantages, it's easy to pitch, it erects on its own. Disadvantages, they don't tend to be fully weatherproof. Our second requirement, describe the materials used in tent making. A complete tent includes the main tent material, poles, pegs, and often ropes. Strong tent poles, high quality pegs, and a secured fastening will help keep your tent in place. But increased strength comes with either increased weight or more costly materials. Modern tents are made from a range of materials depending on the intended use of the tent. So we've got 3 types of tent materials. First is our canvas. Canvas is very durable, very heavy. You don't want the weight on a backpacking trip, but a heavy circus tent will stay up in a big windstorm. So a canvas material, for those who don't know what a canvas material is, it's the material, you know, those old funeral tents, a canvas material layer. So with a tent with such a material, you cannot go hiking with such, because then it's heavy for you to carry. And then we've got our nylon. Nylon is much lighter, but designed for calm conditions because it does not stand up to wind well. So our nylon is much lighter than e-canvas. Our nylon is similar to e-polyester, and in nylon now it's similar to e-polyester, but then now it's a bit heavy. It's a bit heavy for e-backpacking. Polyester is good for tents that will be exposed to extended time in the sun. So e-polyester would be good for us, Tina, as we are for us SDAs when we have our camp meeting events. Because a camp meeting, it's a Sunday to Sunday event. So when you pitch your tent, you probably pitch your tent on a Sunday and it would stand right through the week until your following Sunday. So a polyester material tent would be good for Amasabat. Pole materials. Poles have become lighter weight over the years as manufacturers innovate. So obviously poles are different and they have become lighter compared to poles or canvas tents, which are your funeral tents. Normally now we have those thick steel poles. Konamanje, we've got fiberglass, which is a flexible pole. So technology is on another level. Lower priced, a very heavy tent may use steel, as I mentioned, or even wood poles, but aluminum, fiberglass, various plastics, and for performance tents, carbon fiber are all common lighter weight tents. Those are your poles. And then we've got tent stakes or pegs. A wide variety of tent pegs are made of metal, plastic, or a combination of materials are available on the market. So now we've got a standard 9-inch steel tent peg, which is a peg. It's one of the first pegs that we knew. It's a steel, it's a 7-shaped steel. Lightweight material ripple pegs that have an increased surface area. Strong plastic pegs with lots of surface area, not so good on rocky grounds. Strong plastic pegs, you'd find them normally abantu aba camping on seasides. They use plastic pegs. 9-inch nails with plastic top to attach ropes to, which is the picture I have lapo on your right. And alloy pegs commonly used in backpacking, lighter weight but easier to bend out of shape than steel. And we have our rope. Rope is an important component in many tent designs. Rope comes in a variety of materials. So in the pictures, I have your canvas material, your polyester, your nylon. As you can see, similarity between your polyester and nylon. Nylon is much thicker. And you've got your fiberglass ropes, and you've got pegs and ropes lapo in the upper picture. Our third requirement, identify the classes of tents for the purpose intended and most well-known tent producers. So there are generally 2 types, your recreational family tent and your hiking tent. These, okay, we're going to read Lapagu family tent. These tents are made in such a way that it is easy and friendly. It's friendly for people who may not have been camping before, and it's easier for them to put, but at the same time, because it's a family tent, sometimes they are bigger in size to fit more people inside of that tent. So most of these tents come in a form of a dome tent, and sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 dome tents together in one, and it forms almost like a T shape. So these are not foreign to us. We see these kind of tents Kuma camp meeting events. Hiking tent. The hiking tent has its own subcategories, which is your mid-range and your high range. Mid-range are still tents that can be about a 2, 3, or even 1-man tent. And the intentions behind these tents are they pack small so that they can fit into your backpack. The quality of the material is slightly different and better than the family tent, and therefore the price is slightly more higher. So a hiking tent would be suitable for us as pathfinders. as we've got a hiking honor, so it would be a great opportunity if one could probably organize a hiking honor and then get yourself a one-man tent. It's a simple tent. It doesn't look heavy to me. It's not heavy at all, because if it can fit into your backpack, it means it's not heavy, and you can actually carry it throughout a hiking yako. And then we've got our manufacturers, our tent manufacturers, which is our Folkson tent. A Folkson tent is in Pretoria, in Centurion. Our Techno tent is it's in Benoni, in the WestRand. And we've got our Ace tents. Our Ace tents are situated in Edenvale. Fourth requirement, choose a specific tent model that you would like to purchase and justify your choice. So your choice of tent will depend on various factors, including budget. How much can you spend, and how much should you spend to get a tent that will meet your needs and will last? Intended function: family tent, individual tent, cooking tent, backpacking versus load in a car, or perhaps an event tent. For backpacking, you are interested in a duration of carrying the tent. Weight and size are crucial factors. So you don't want to be go hike with a heavy tent, you know. So obviously your hiking would be miserable, because now all your frustrations will be on how heavy their bag was. Your size. Size intended function leads to the size of the tent. It needs to be big enough for sleeping comfortably and big enough to store camping gear and accessories. Headroom, eating space, and living space is optional. A family may prefer separate sleeping areas for different sexes and separate living areas. So layer a family or recreational tent would be best for you. No? Intentional height. There are 4 useful heights used to evaluate appropriate tent height. It's a lie down only, sit, kneel, and stand. The exact height at which these apply depend on the height of the campers involved. So intentional height, you cannot have a dome tent for a person who is as tall as Okamu. You know, it would be quite uncomfortable for him to uti alale in a dome tent, because now the size of corner is just not big enough. Frequency of use: how often will you use the tent? A person that takes regular extended backpacking trips will want a better quality tent. So our people like brother Nkululeko and brother Mandla, who are forever hiking, those people, they hike throughout the year. Yibo laba who would who would probably prefer a better quality tent than some of us who would be using the tent once in a year for a camp meeting only, or when we like it, most probably if we have outdoor tent. So it would be twice or once a year. So Tina, who would use a tent once or twice a year, would probably go for a cheaper tent, because now you don't use it often, unlike people who are forever on backpacking trips. So a person that takes regular extended backpacking trips will want a better quality tent than someone that drives to one weekend camp out a couple of times a year that can get by with a cheap tent. Available materials and quality: you can only buy what is available in the market. Expected weather conditions: while you can't predict all the weather you may face, you can predict how you intend to handle extreme weathers. Manufacturers label tents as 1 season, 2 to 3 seasons, 3 to 4 seasons, and 4 seasons. A 1-season tent is generally for summer only and may only be capable of coping with light showers. An example of a 1-season tent would be a dome tent. A 3-season tent is for spring, summer, autumn, and should be capable of withstanding fairly heavy rain and very light snow. A 4-season tent should be suitable for winter camping in all but most extreme conditions. That would be our recreational tent. An expedition tent, which is the one that I placed Lapo in your picture, for mountain conditions should be strong enough to cope with heavy snow, strong winds, as well as heavy rain. Number 8, ease of setup. Is the tent easy to pitch? Can you pitch it alone, or do you need help? In cases of an easy to pitch tent, we'd go for our pop-up tent, and layer you can pitch it alone. And in terms of needing help, that would be your recreational or family tent, which is impossible to pitch alone. Reputation. Has the tent received good reviews online? Does it come with a warranty? Is the manufacturer well respected? So before buying a tent, you need to do a research on whether the tent that you want is right in terms of a warranty, and abantu abanayo, are they happy with it, and so forth. Tent color. Bright colored tents can be easily spotted from the air in cases of emergency. If there's any chance a vehicle may not see a tent and run over it, a bright tent can reduce the risk. Campers wandering away from camp will find their way back more easily if the tent is highly visible. Lost hikers may find rescue by spotting a visible campsite from afar. So I'd consider having a light colored tent with glow in the dark ropes. Looks pretty. Yeah, I think it's easier. I think it's much better even having a tent side air glow wire in the dark, in case of emergencies. Our 5th requirement: demonstrate how to prepare a tent for rain and wind. List the rules for finding a place for a tent. Now you are demonstrating how to prepare. You are not pitching it, you are preparing it. So I hope you get the difference, because in most cases people buy a picture instead of preparing. So Konamanje, you need to prepare it. Later on, you'd be pitching it. And then when submitting this, you need to attach a video of yourself preparing a tent in these conditions, which is rain and wind. And this requirement can be done in a group to accommodate those who do not have a tent. Know and understand the following 6 W's for the selection of a good campsite. Yes, wind. Find areas that are protected from wind. This requires knowing or guessing at the normal wind direction. Face your tent door away from the wind to avoid the wind driving rain in front of the tent. However, be aware of how your style of tent performs against the wind and pitch it properly. Using the correct knots to secure your tent will help in the wind. As mentioned before, if you have a tunnel tent or a dome tent, or even a pop-up tent or whatever tent that you have, whenever you pitch the tent, make sure the door is facing where the direction of the wind is going. If it faces the opposite direction, the possibilities of your tent collapsing or being blown away are very much at high risk. Water. Fresh water should be available for drinking. Beware of drainage areas, flooding, and other water-related hazards. Marshy areas can have a high mosquito population that can make camping miserable. Choose a location that is high on ground. Weather. Preparing a tent for wind and rain is mostly about pitching it correctly and securely. Knowledge of weather patterns of an area can help you decide the best location for the campsite. Once a tent has the first rip or broken pole, it tends to quickly fail in other places. Wild things. Beware of signs of large mammals such as bears, wolves, and mountain lions. Also watch out for the small wild things such as snakes, spiders, ticks, biting flies, and mosquitoes. Wood. Adequate wood should be available for campfire and no dead wood above sleeping area. Survey the trees to make sure that they will not fall on you in strong winds. Overhanging tree branches can snap in a windstorm. While you may not be able to avoid being under trees completely, at least avoid unhealthy, older or dead trees to reduce the chance of falling branches. Willingness. Make sure the owner of the property is willing for you to camp on it. Make sure you have the proper permits for camping areas. Requirement number 6. Put up and then take down a tent in the following conditions. Now you'll have to pitch it up. Strong wind. The key to pitching a tent in a strong wind is to stake it down as soon as you can. First, spread it out on the ground, then stake it. Do not raise it until it is staked. That way, when the wind catches it, it is firmly anchored to the ground and will stay in place. Likewise, when striking a tent in strong winds, leave the stakes in until the tent is completely down. Only then should the stakes be removed, and even then, you could leave one or more in the ground as you roll it up for storage. So the material your tent is very light. So if you cannot pitch it up unless you stake it first in case of windy situations. So it is quite wise to stake it first before pitching it up, because then yes, the wind will quite disturb you guys, but if it's staked in, then it won't be flying away.
Awuthumela ama-questions kungaze ngathi kusiprintele kuphela lawa then lana awuthumela kuphele njalo.
Familiarity with the tent makes working with it in the dark much easier. So when pitching a tent in the night, it is much easier if you know how your tent looks and what your tent needs. You don't want to have to check the directions in the dark in cases of a new tent. Track your tent pegs carefully because they can be hard to spot even in daylight. It is always a good idea to set up and take down a new tent at home before you head out to make sure you have all the parts and know how to put them together. That way you are not stuck when you arrive at a campsite after some delay and are forced to figure things out in the dark. So even if it's a new tent, guys, before going on whatever trip you're going to, pitch it up at home so that you see ukuthi ini iyakuphi and how is it pitched up and what's needed ukuthi upitch that tent. So it's easier ukuthi to pitch up a tent that you know how to pitch at night. Requirement number 7, tell the safety rules for living in a tent. Yeah, research the areas you plan to visit. Are there any particular dangers such as certain animals, plants, or insects that you might encounter? Are there seasonal dangers of which you should be aware of? Remember to check the weather forecast and pack accordingly. Inspect. Look for potential hazards in your campsite. Check the ground thoroughly for glass, sharp objects including rocks, overhanging or about to fall branches or rocks on cliffs, pests like large squirrels and wasp nests, hazards like poison ivy and any hazardous terrain. If you find something that cannot be rectified, consider a better spot. Tent placement. Only pitch your tent in a safe spot. A good site is level with enough space for your gear. It is not on a road worthy or blocking a trail. Do not place your tent in a low-lying areas, as it may be prone to flooding. Higher ground is better in a rainstorm. Campfire proximity. Do not build your fire close to your tent. Make sure your campfire is always attended to or out cold. Out cold meaning when you put out your fire, make sure that you can place your hand on. And if your hand does not burn, then you know Gucci, your fire is completely out. Gas stove, use away from the tent to prevent accidental fires. Wildlife. Keep your campsite free of food scraps and odors, and do not bring food into tents because that is an invitation to animals to come in for a midnight snack. And B, no tent offers effective bear protection. So it's advisable when you guys are eating, you eat most probably under trees and far away from your tents. Whatever scraps of food, or if there is any odor that's left lapho, bears or whatever animal that comes into your campsite lapho, it stays lapho. When you bring food into tents, guys, whew, every man for himself, God for us all. Requirement number 8, demonstrate how to repair a tent in the following situations. A torn or burnt hole in the tent wall. Ribs are holes in which the fabric can be smoothed down and little or no hole is visible. To fix a rib, first make sure the area to be repaired is clean and dry. Smooth the tent down and line up the torn sides neatly. Trim any excess trim. Next, apply the tape over the rib, going well beyond the edges of the rib to ensure good adhesion. Avoid any bubbles or ripples as this can cause water infiltration. Consider applying tape to the other side of the rib as well. Holes are a different problem. You need to cover the hole with fabric patch and then tape it securely down. Canvas tent can be sewed together or holes patched. So canvas is a much stronger material, so layer you can sew it together, unlike layer where you smooth the tents and place tapes over holes. A broken pole or arch. Most modern tent poles are under stress when erected. So the key is to bridge the broken spots and transfer the stress to unbroken portions of the pole, while still keeping the pole flexible enough to do its job. If you do not have a repair kit, you can perform an emergency repair with duct tape. Duct tape is one of those electric tapes, the ones that people repair electric wires with. But that might not provide enough strength for the pole when placed under stress. Taping on something like a metal tent peg or strong stick can help bridge the break. Torn zipping or grommet. Zip. Torn grommets are extra annoying. The exact fix is going to depend on the extent of the damage, but generally you will want to repair the ribs as described above. You may want to use a patch as well around the grommet hole. Damaged zippers on anything can often be fixed by gently adjusting the zipper clasp with a pair of pliers. Squeezing the clasp together and fitting the zipper back in. A little bar of soap on a problem zipper can help it slide better. If the zipper is separating from the tent, you may need to sew it back on, or you might try taping it with a very strong tape similar to a rib. Seam separation. Either apply a sealant according to the manufacturer's directions, or tape as described for ribs and tears above. Requirement number 9. Know how to keep and properly care for tents. Every Pathfinder needs to know how to take care of tents. The most important thing to remember is to only put away a dry tent. If you can't put the tent away dry, take the tent home and open it up again to dry it out properly. A wet tent will mold, rot, and stain. A tent missing poles, pegs, or other pieces is completely useless and very frustrating. Failing to put all the parts together in the tent bag will cause much frustration on the next camping trip. So guys, tent is iyazithanda, as you can see. Izithanda kabi. You cannot pack it imanzi because abazithanda means izomoshakala, you know. So when you're using your tent, mawuzoyipheka, make sure you clean it up and make sure ukuthi yonke the whole tent is dry before you store it up in the corner. And when you use your tent, guys, make sure ukuthi all the pegs, if you have 10 pegs, make sure ukuthi when you pack up, you count all your pegs together, because if one peg is missing or one pole is missing, then the whole of the tent that you left with is useless. So I'll open up for questions. This is my last slide. If anybody has questions, I'll open up for questions. And if there are no questions, have a blessed Sunday to everybody. Questions? Anybody? Somebody? Okay, I guess we do not have questions. Thank you, guys. Bye.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Before you start leaving, please can we have somebody to pray for us? And then also we will send the requirements just in case anybody forgets to your leaders, and then they'll let you know according to your churches. But for now, please can we have somebody to pray for us? But there is a hand up, Ma'am Linda. I don't know if that's for you. If your hand is up, please can you unmute yourself and speak?
I was saying, may you please pray.
Oh yes, you may pray for us. Thank you.
Let's do that and pray. Father, thank you for guiding us safe everything we did. Please protect us, please protect those doing listen, please guide us in Jesus' name, please bless us, please those